Welcome, Tom Cronin. Welcome to the show. I'm so excited to tune in with you again. It's been a while between interviews, actually, so I'm excited to see where you're at the moment.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me along. Always love engaging with you in our conversations.
Me too. And, we were just talking before we clicked record on the kind of purpose around why this podcast came to life for me. And, I think you've been a huge part in my journey of helping me connect inward, right? And I've always had this, not always, but like recently I've had this thing of you've got to go in to get out. And one of the most profound things that I experienced was sitting in the meditation room with you and learning Vedic meditation and learning about how to just sit in stillness and be with yourself. And no matter if you know what's coming up or what's coming through, and not judging that. And I think that's been a huge transformation in me being able just to sit in that stillness and feel that balance start to come through and be comfortable there. And so, yeah, you've had such an impact on my ability to meditate and find the value in meditation. And I remember driving away from the course with you in Sydney one weekend and watching how my reactions just diffused, how like on the part, like I was like on the freeway and watching like things happening around me, but my path just being super clear, and how non-reactional I was being. And it was a really different experience for me. So yeah, like meditation is such an important experience, right? An important pillar when we're looking at connecting deeper to who we are.
Yeah, absolutely. Meditation is the device. We call it the portal. That's what I've got to film a book called The Portal, is because it's the process to enable us to access what inherently is always there. And what you were experiencing is not something that you attained or you acquired through having that weekend workshop with me. What you did was I gave you a device that enabled you to access what was always there, just as if there's clouds all day long, every day, and all of a sudden those clouds just melt away, and all of a sudden you see this blue sky and you're like, oh my goodness, what's that thing there? It's like, well, that was always there. It's just that it was masked by this form or phenomenon. We call it clouds, but what we're talking about here is our thoughts and our body and our feelings, which mask inherently what's always there, which is a deep stillness and a deep silence. And that's the essence, it's the very deep essence of who we are.
Yeah, so beautiful. And when we look at it from the yin yang perspective, the masculine feminine perspective, I find that now when I sit in this place, this stillness meditation, or going within, I find it to be quite a masculine trait, right? Like a masculine trait that allows me to like just be still and be in my body and be like super present with what's around me. Do you find in your experience that this is typically what this does, is like puts us more into this masculine structured state? Or do you find that it can be a way in which we can harmonize both the masculine and feminine within us?
It's a really good question. And I guess there's different ways to look at it. In Taoism, they always suggest that the masculine is represented by the mountain, which is still, and the feminine is represented by the ocean, which is constantly moving. And there's this, polarity between masculine and feminine. And we could say that, yes, that's true. In meditation, it might be yang to go into stillness. And it's interesting that you would use the words structured with stillness and silence, because it's quite unstructured. But at the same time, what that does is that when we come out of meditation, it allows us to have a deeper sense of connectivity, which is our yin, and that sense of communion and integration. And so I think the two go very well. There's a beautiful saying, chop wood, meditate, chop wood, which means, have the interaction of the world, the engagement with the world, and then embrace stillness as well. And combine those two things. We have stillness and we have action, and we have silence and we have noise. We have stillness and motion. So I think that the key to a successful holistic approach to life is to have both of those. And what we have currently in the world is way too much noise and way too much action, not enough stillness. And what we see in some cultures is too much stillness and not enough action. And so it's about this really beautiful combination of merging those two things. And that's what we're really hoping to get in this sort of new era for humanity, is where we combine the yin and the yang, the masculine and the feminine, the silence and the noise, the stillness and the action. And that's when we're going to get a very engaged but purposeful and conscious way of living in the world.
Yeah, which is interesting because, I think there's a lot of action being taken, but without the stillness, it's not necessarily the most appropriate action that could be taken, right?
Not conscious action, yeah.
Right. And so what would be the benefit in that setting? What would be the benefits of somebody learning to sit in stillness?
Because then the action will be coming from a place that has the foundation of pure consciousness, wisdom, and union with everything else. Because at the subtlest level, so at the gross level, we're all these individual forms moving around in our own individualized state, trying to satisfy the I. When we transcend that I and that individuation, what happens is we experience not just us being a wave, we start to experience us as the ocean. And when we start to combine that on a regular basis as a state of awareness, then we realize, as we're engaged in the world as the ocean, we realize that all the other waves are the ocean as well. So we start to find, through our now conscious action and our action that's embodied in wisdom, that it becomes a very different action. Rather than action that's based on, I've got to satisfy an I that's constantly in a state of need, we start to move into action that's coming from a greater place of fulfillment. Of course, this is a process that takes time. It doesn't mean we're suddenly becoming enlightened and we're perfect with all of our actions. Mm-hmm. It's just an ongoing process. I've been meditating for 25 years. So there's still some sense of holes or egoic sort of lack, and there's still some sense of I driving some of my action. But over time, we get more and more of the essence of being, which is fulfillment or consciousness or wisdom, being the source and the foundation for which the action flows from.
What is it about, like, being able to sit in silence or stillness and like calming the noise? What happens when you then get that that? I call it a download. Like, I'm like, there's this piece of information that I didn't know before, or this decision or this thing that drops into my mind. And then all of a sudden I'm like, I need to do that thing. Or like, there's this impulse that comes through. Where does that come from? And how do we access more of that state?
Yes, it's a great question, isn't it? It's amazing how, and this is why it's so important to get instruction with meditation training, because a lot of people think they're not meditating well because they get all these incredible downloads or impulses, or I call them creative impulses. So what happens when we transcend, that is to go into stillness? Stillness is actually quite dynamic. People think of it as an empty space, but it's actually quite dynamic. When we transcend, we're actually accessing the entire field of all creative possibility. So this mouse had always been a possibility, and this phone had always been a possibility. It's just that it took X many generations or decades or centuries till someone was able to cognize out of the field of possibility the creative impulse to create it. But the idea was given birth as someone cognized out of that field. Now, what's in that field of infinite creative possibility is infinite, right? So if this phone 3,000 years ago had the possibility to be cognized, which it did, it's just that it took till 2000 or 1999 or whenever it got cognized as an idea. So it makes us ask the question, if this was a possibility 3,000 years ago, to have a little gadget that could track where I'm moving and with a little blue dot and make me find my way around the streets of LA, or find somewhere to eat or whatever, then what's in the field of possibility right now that I'm not accessing? And that's infinite. And so when we start transcending in meditation, what happens is we start accessing that field and get incredible impulses of creativity. And there's a saying, chop wood, meditate, chop wood, which means, yes, manifest the impulse, go into action, and go from creating that as an idea into a form or phenomenon. And Oprah Winfrey, she says, it is only from that space can you create your best work and your best life. And the space she's talking about, because she's a Vedic meditator or transcendental meditator, what she's talking about is that space beyond thought in the field. And this is the beauty of the transcending style meditations. And look, don't get me wrong, all meditations are wonderful, but there's a limitation to the ones that don't take you beyond that process of thinking, because you don't get outside the realm of the construction of thought. And to transcend means to get beyond the constructed forms and limitations of your thinking process and access the field of infinite possibility. And that's what gets things really, really exciting.
It's so juicy, isn't it? Like, it's just when you get to that, like the other day I was wondering why I was feeling off, and I was like, I was telling myself I need to meditate for like 2 weeks, and I just was not doing it, and I was sick, and all these things was happening. Well, and then I remembered, and I just pulled my car over, and I was like, I'm just going to do it right now. I'm just going to just drop in. And instantly I was just like, I was just like in my body, and I felt so much better. But I had about 3 different ideas that I didn't have before, that I'd been blocked on for 2 weeks, that had just dropped into my mind.
Yeah, you think about our thinking process. So 85% of the thoughts that we have are the same thoughts as the day before and the day before. And that we're in this sort of repetition of thinking, this sort of natural neural pathways that just keep taking the same route time and time again. If you think of the water in the Grand Canyon, it's carved such a deep groove through the landscape because it continues to take the same path. Now, the irony is the longer it takes that path, the more it's going to take that path. And that's with our thinking process. The more we take that path with our thoughts, the more we're going to take that path with our thoughts. There's the irony. Now, the key to this is knowing that also 85% of those thoughts aren't even your thoughts. They're your social media, they're your parents, your generations, they're, this entire process of thinking that's been programmed into you through a deep indoctrination. I have to excuse my cavoodle. He's barking away behind us. And so when we transcend, what we do is we liberate ourselves from the conditioning and the program and the habituation of thinking, and we access a field that's not confined by that. It's a field of all possibility. So you're thinking, driving along, having the same thoughts, I should meditate, I'm sick. And they're very, very, what we call karmakan, very gross level thinking. Most of our thoughts land on something fairly tangible, fairly gross, as in dense. Shopping, electricity bill, dinner tonight, job we've got to get done, emails it's very gross. We don't really think vastly outside the realm of the standard way of thinking on a daily basis. But when we meditate, quite often we'll access this field, and all of a sudden we have thoughts that were just nowhere near the landscape of our mind 5 minutes prior to meditating.
Yes, it's so good. So when you say transcend, can somebody just be in this meditation in their room today, after listening to this podcast, and be able to transcend? And what does that actually mean?
Yeah, transcending means to step beyond, go beyond. To transcend means to go beyond. So you've gone beyond the limits of 3 forms: physical, mental, and emotional. So we define ourselves by our vehicles, which is our physical form, our mental form, and our feeling form, our emotional form. And this is the idea of who we are, the persona. We get attached to that identity, particularly to our physical form. These are just temporary vehicles that we've been granted the gift of having 3 vehicles to enable us to experience this plane, planet Earth. We can't experience planet Earth without those 3 vehicles. But they're a limited and temporary form or phenomenon that you're experiencing supposedly as yourself. To transcend means to experience the 4th state, the 4th realm. Turiya in Sanskrit means 4th. And Turiya is what we experience when we transcend, that is to go beyond those 3. So a lot of students of mine will go, I had this weird sort of sensation that I'd lost my hands, or I lost my legs, or I didn't have a body. And that's because they'd transcended this confinement of a physical apparatus or a meat suit. And so transcending means to go beyond those limits and experiencing an unboundedness, a formlessness, a timelessness, a spaciousness that's not confined by any boundary or structure. And it also have other qualities of it, that it's a source of wisdom, it's a source of creativity. And anyone can transcend. Within a weekend workshop, nearly every one of my students will transcend to some degree. That is to have some of that experience of that 4th state. And I liken the analogy to water. So water has the capacity to be in a very dense form in the shape of ice. Water also has the capacity to be less dense and a little bit more fluid, and that is in the property of water. Then it also has the capacity to be steam. Now you can see all of those 3, but there's one other component or one expression of H2O that is unseen, and that's in the form of vapor. And so it's still H2O. It's just that it's unseeable and it has no shape. And so we have these 4 states, just that most of us identified with only 3. And that's why we're in a world of conflict and separation and pain and suffering, because we haven't yet quite realized, self-realized this 4th state, which some call self with a capital S. That's the unboundedness of our own essence.
Mm. And this is interesting too, because there is, I don't know, you've done way more research on this than I have, but like, I feel like more people are waking up to this thing that actually, there's actually so much power or magic in being able to tap into yourself or access more of that, or be it stress levels or health issues, or just having this connection to self of being able to access this. I feel like more people are waking up to this, but there is also still that like, I don't know how to do that, so I'm just not going to, or, you know, I'm not going to go there. What do you think needs to really happen for, you know, for it to impact the planet?
I think the main thing is education, and that's just something that we haven't been taught, that we have this underlying essence. You know, most kids, it's been proven, know the golden arches of McDonald's before they know their surname. We're naturally pulled in the direction of the outer world. So our film and book talks a lot about this. Is, you know, the central turning point in the trailer of our film, if people want to see that, is when Dr. Julia Mossbridge says most people don't know that their inner world exists. And so that's really what has inspired the film and the book, was to let and the Stillness Project as well, was to let people know, first and foremost, that your inner world does exist. There is a silent state that you can access, and that's your sanctuary, it's your invincibility, it's your inner peace. You're just never going to find true peace and true fulfillment by trying to get things and have more experiences. The ego can never actually be satisfied. It's one of the innate characteristics of an ego. And if we're living purely from ego, then we'll never actually get there, wherever we think we're getting there. And that's why we're starting to see this shift, which is really exciting. I agree with you. We are starting to see more people wake up, and that's because they've gotten everything that they thought they should get. You know, I was teaching a billionaire the other day that was more unhappy than he's ever been. And he's got a wife and kids and a beautiful $5 million house and tons of money. And yet he's exhausted his research into the areas of fulfillment, in the areas where he was told that fulfillment exists. And because of that, then he's left wondering, I did everything I was supposed to do. Why aren't I happy? And that's when they give me the call. And I say, that's because you have to go within now. And he came out of it, was blown away. Oh, that's what I've been looking for. I thought I'd get it in selling my company for $1 billion. I thought I'd get in having 4 beautiful children. I thought I'd get in having a wife. I thought I'd get in a beautiful house by the sea. But it didn't arrive there. It can't arrive there. It doesn't exist there. It's not, that's not where the qualities of fulfillment exist.
What is it that exists within us that gives us that feeling?
The innate essence of being with a capital B, or self with a capital S, the qualities or characteristics of being are bliss, joy, and love. They're not emotional states. Emotional states are shame, guilt, happiness, sadness, anger, fear. Bliss, joy, and love are qualities of being that are non-outcome oriented. They don't derive from outcomes. People think these days that love is something you get when you meet someone on Tinder. That person is the trigger mechanism for a connection to something that's already within you. Most of love these days is derived from need and outcome. But ultimately, the true unconditional love is something that's inherent within us and doesn't have any outcomes required to experience it.
And so do you think that by being more outcome driven of, okay, if I get this thing, then I'll be happy. If I do this, then I'll do, you know, that later game that a lot of people are playing. Do you think by doing that, they're chasing something that if they were just to hold up for a moment and sit in this stillness and access who they are, and maybe even have to go through a bit of fear to do that, like actually I think a lot of people are just scared to want to sit with what's going to come up. Do you think that is going to far outweigh anything that the later or the outcome or the goals could ever give them?
Yeah, one takes a little bit longer to really stabilize and discover. Getting a new dress or getting a big night out with your mates are all very tangible and very immediate. Getting a bowl of ice cream, you can get fulfillment quite quickly. Which there's a natural tendency for us to find the shortest route possible to fulfillment. It's just always been the way. Whereas withdrawing from that world of excitement and glamour and charm and going into silence and stillness, away from excitation, and stabilizing that essence within us, it does take time. And so it is a long-term investment. And if you look at, I was in finance for 26 years, any short-term gains usually came with long-term pains, and any long-term gains, which was long-term investments, usually paid off with, long-term fulfillment. And so I think the same thing applies to our own spiritual journeys, that we have to be in for the long game. And sure, you'll get very immediate results. There's no question about it. Like you said, driving home from the course, you started to experience different things. And most of my students will feel tangibly different within 7 days of doing the course, if not even at the end of the course. The amount of emails I get the day after the course where people are really quite transformed, because they're given a direct route to the essence of who they are. But to sustain that over time, it takes time. I still get ruffled at times. I still get challenged at times. And so, it's about a longer term investment in the process. And that's what a lot of people aren't that prepared to do, I think, these days sometimes.
Why do you think there is a fear of wanting to do it?
Yeah, it's probably a fear of losing out, FOMO, and it's important for people to understand, when we do these deeper meditations, there's a purging that happens, a letting go or releasing, as layers and layers of accumulated stresses and emotions that are stored in the body start to peel off. And it can be quite confronting to go through those processes. It's confronting to let go, confronting to change. It's it is a process that can be quite challenging at times, for sure.
And what would you suggest for someone who is perhaps interested but doesn't really know how to?
Yeah, I'm always advocating finding a teacher that they resonate with, and learning in the space of a teacher that's qualified in this art. And I'm not saying that just because I'm a teacher, but because you're really dealing with a really important area of your life, which is your mind, your spirituality, a state of fulfillment, and having really good qualified instruction on how to do this, why you're going to have certain sensations, how to navigate your way through those complexities. We're talking about finding simplicity beyond complexity. And that's a process that needs to be supported with someone that can really help you through that journey. And to know that beyond the complexity of your life, there does lie an incredible simplicity. It's the fundamental nature of the universe, that it was simple and created complexity. And that simplicity always does still exist within that complexity. And we just need to get beyond the complexity to find that simplicity. And we will find it. And that's what transcendence is. We'll find that, wow, everything's really simple in being. And just having someone to just have, first and foremost, have faith that it exists for you. It does exist. So you're not excluded from this experience of self. You weren't someone uniquely special that didn't get it. You all have it within you. And to know that it's there, and to find someone that you resonate with, because not all teachers are going to resonate with you. Some students that I don't resonate with them. And so they'll look at it for another teacher, and vice versa. So find a teacher that you resonate with, and learn from that teacher and be with them. That was always the tradition thousands and thousands of years ago.
Yeah. And I think it can bring so much, peace and clarity and like groundedness to somebody's being. And I know for me, it allowed me to fully accept this impulsive being that I am, like I can sit in this place and get this thought, I think I was telling you, like, you know, a year ago I had this idea, right, to do this podcast and go in this direction, but it came up literally in dream, it came up in meditations, and I just kept ignoring it. And then it would get stronger. And like, there was these impulses that I was like, like, it just lit me up, you know, it was like, this is an amazing idea. But I was like, oh, no, I can't do that. You know, I'd come back into what I would, you know, the real world. And like, you know, and then you're like, no, I can't do any of that stuff. And as I've began to follow it more and trust it more and trust that thing that comes up, it's allowed me to just like ebb and flow with life, like exactly like that. And it's not to say that everyone would have that same experience, right? Like, what is it about that experience that I've kind of had with meditation that's now allowed me to be, I would say, fully more myself than I've ever been, because I'm able to know myself a little bit and not say I need to be like this person here. I'm just going to do what I'm going to do. What is it about that, like, you know, like, but not everyone's going to have that experience. Does that make sense?
Well, what's coming through for me is that you're clearing out the blockages to the flow that wants to go from source through you to a need of the time. Mm-hmm. So there's a need of the time that is calling for the flow of that wisdom, that knowledge that is going to have to come through people. And everyone has the capacity to be a conduit from source through you to a need of the time. Just as my film, I kind of like had this choicelessness that had to happen. And I really just had to get out of the way. So meditation helps dilute and dissolve and break down the ego, which is the impediment, the thing that I'm no good, I'm not worthy, there's no way that I could do that. All of that stuff is the noise and the clouds that's blocking the sun that wants to flow through to source to grow life on earth. And what happens is, if there was all day, every day clouds and no sun, then we would actually probably have no life. And so what happens is the ego, the identity, the form, that is the impediment to source wanting to come through you, which is infinite creativity and wanting to go to the need of the time, which is, you know, somewhere, somehow, someone is calling for that information. And you become the conduit, like those beautiful, not beautiful, those plastic orange pipes that electricity has to run through, you know, in the house. So it's going from source to the need of the time, which is the light bulb. And you become a clear conduit because you've cleared out the blockages. And that's what tends to happen, I think.
And so what was the process for you to create this film? Like, how did you decide that that's something that you wanted to do for a while, or did it come through in an impulse?
It came through impulses all along. So the impulse was that I had this overriding compulsion to make meditation a global phenomenon, make meditation accessed by a billion people, to bring that into the daily households of the world. And part of that was that was the first impulse. And the second impulse was, how do we make that possible, you know, which is the sort of the mechanics of that. And so there was a number of different ways, you know, corporate speaking and retreats and online programs and social media. And then, why don't we do a film? You know, if people see a film about how meditation changed people's lives, then that will inspire them to want to meditate. You know, I've had so many people that have just watched the film, just one film screening at a festival, and a few people commented, oh my goodness, I really feel like I need to meditate. And so that's kind of what we were hoping would happen. So it was an impulse that kept coming through. Yeah.
Amazing. And I want to go back to when we were speaking about the yin and yang and masculine and feminine of how this can kind of come out, because I also know that there's types of meditations and types of breathing that can balance the hemispheres, right? Would you be able to talk about how there's like half feminine, half masculine within us already? Like, you know, the left meaning the feminine side to us and the right meaning the male, and how you find that this meditation and Vedic meditation is a way in which you can find the balance within, which then, following on question from that, will that help balance the planet?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you look at the Taoist symbol of yin and yang, which is that circle with the black and the white, yes, sort of semi halves coming together, and you'll notice that one of them is like a teardrop in black and one's a teardrop in white, and then they've got a little dot of the black in the white and the white in the black. So what we're seeing is a convergence of two components of a yin and yang, masculine and feminine, to create a wholeness, oneness. And this is what we're all yearning for in our lives, is to find a polarity to our yin or yang, to find wholeness, which is why we have relationships, because I'm one essence predominantly and I'm looking for the other essence predominantly, and when we come together we experience wholeness. Now the conflicting aspect to that is that the polarities also create conflict, because we've got two people that are very different coming together. They don't talk like me, they don't think like me, they don't act like me. That's really confusing. And so we've got this interesting dynamic that plays out in our relationships. But when we transcend in meditation, what happens is we go into the field where that wholeness already exists. There's not these defining qualities of masculine and feminine. Ultimately, there's wholeness in itself, which is completeness, which is the convergence of those two components in there. And so we start to find this incredible harmonization within our own masculine and feminine. So I'm much more balanced now in my masculine and feminine than I used to be. And that, I think, comes through meditation. You look at people that have been meditating for quite a long time, you'll see this really nice balance of, this objectivism and linear type drive that they have in their yang, and then there's holistic, soft and nurturing and creative side, which is in their yin. And that really is a beautiful dynamic that enables us to sort of be very successful. And what we're seeing as that starts to prevail more and more in individual lives, we start to see this prevail on the planet. We've had a very yang planet for a long time, which is why we've had wars and, all sorts of horrible conflict and business oriented. It's just all about goals and bottom lines and dollars and cents. And what we haven't really had is enough yin on the planet, which is taking into process and taking into account the whole. And this is one of the wonderful qualities of the yin. And we're starting to see a lot more yin energy coming up through the planet, as it's going to take a while. We've got a lot of yang to work through and to bring into a lot more balance. But that's why we're seeing a lot more female leaders coming through on the planet, a lot more empowerment through the feminine as the yin energy rises up and is no longer being so oppressed and suppressed by the yang energy. And what we will see, hopefully, is we see greater and greater levels of yin coming through on the planet. Hopefully what we'll also see is much more harmony, much more tenderness, much more kindness, much more union, not just amongst humans, but union with humans and nature, which has not been very much part of the way we've been living our lives for quite some time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the direction it's going is beautiful. And what was your experience like? Were you more dominant in one, and then by experiencing the meditation, how did it help balance that out, and what happened for you?
Yeah, if you look at where I was when I was in my 20s, I was a badass Wolf of Wall Street style broker, which was really very, very yang, just on trading room floors, yelling and screaming. I was not a nice person. It's taken me a long time to sort of really find much more balance, be much more tender, kinder, more conscious, more caring. That was a very lopsided experience that I was having in life. And now I have a little bit more balance going on with more yin and yang components. Now I can run businesses, structure the creation of a film, run retreats, have structure around the retreat. Hey, everyone, we need to be here at this particular point in time, but then have the tenderness and the consciousness and the softness to be able to take people through really moving and powerful transformational experiences and be nurturing with them through that process. So, this is ultimately, like Oprah said, it's from that place that you create your best work and your best life, and having more balance of yin and yang in ourselves.
Yes, I love that. Oh, so how can we help support your film? Where can people go to find out more about the portal, and tell us about it?
Yeah, the film's really starting, the film and book. So they can go to www.entertheportal.com, and everything about the project will be there, where they can book tickets and attend a screening, host their own screenings. We will go digital eventually. We're not digital yet because we're going to be doing a cinema run for a while, give people the opportunity to experience the film in a cinema. And it's a really dynamic film, a very different film. We push the boundaries. It's 6 personal stories that have all gone through crisis, all from very different backgrounds, and moved through that crisis by bringing more consciousness and mindfulness and meditation into their lives. And we all meet together in the film experience with them as they go into a meditation, and then you in the audience also go into a meditation, which is the first time that's ever been done in a film before. So we'll all be meditating together, which is a really beautiful moment. And the book is a deeper expansive journey into their stories, but also we have 3 futurists, 3 philosophers that kick the can a long way down the road for humanity. We look at why we are where we are, why we're at an inflection point, a really important junction point for humanity, where we go next it literally is a fork in the road. It's not like we can keep going on this particular path and expect things to just keep being what they are. We're actually meeting a fork in the road. Now, when you get to a fork in the road, there's only one of 2 ways you can go. You can't keep taking the same path. You actually have to delineate at that particular point in time. We're not quite at that fork. We're very close to the fork. And we're getting closer and closer day by day to that fork. And that fork basically means we break down and possibly could even self-terminate as a species, or we break through and we create a completely different environment for humanity where, we see a very, very significant way of living in the world, which is much more harmonious, a lot more enlightened.
Amazing.
So that's a
Sounds
lot of
amazing.
We cover some pretty big themes in the film. It's quite major, and we feel it's like a need of the time, and it's an important film and book that really is speaking to where the planet's at right now.
And so you're going to be in Australia and USA. Where else is it going to be showing, and when does this kick off?
Yeah, we're starting with our national tour in Australia. The first Q&A screenings in New South Wales at Dendy Newtown on the 10th of October. We're doing a national tour until the national release on the 17th of October. So that's all capital cities. It'll be in cinemas. Mm-hmm. And they can find that on the website, entertheportal.com. Then we go to New Zealand for a Q&A on the 30th of October, and that releases on the 7th of November in New Zealand. And then we'll be releasing nationally in the US as well in November. And then we've got a tour happening in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. We've got people inviting us for screenings all around the world where people can host their own screening if it's not showing in cinemas. And then eventually we'll go into digital where people will be able to buy it online, but not for a while yet.
Incredible. And what about your book? Is that available now? Or?
Yeah, the book is available now. They can get that on our website as well, and they can get it through Booktopia. It's going to go up on Amazon in a couple of weeks, and you can get it through Book Depository as well.
Amazing, Tom. Well, I'm so proud of the work that you're doing, and I appreciate you bringing this into the world, because I know you've been working on this for a long time and it's needed, and you do such incredible work with a giant heart. So I'm so grateful for the work that you do and bring to the world. Thank you for listening to that impulse.
Yeah.
And is there anything that you would like to round out today's conversation with? One last final thing.
I think just for everyone, I know one of the big things that's happening in the world right now is immense levels of overwhelm and haste, and a feeling that we just don't have enough time. And to just keep reminding yourself and putting that time aside each day to nourish your heart, to connect in with yourself, to withdraw from the distractions of life, and to have some time to look within. And don't be afraid to do that, because what you find there is such richness and such joy and such lovingness that it's well worth the effort you'll make to get to the chair or get to the floor and just spend that time to close your eyes and withdraw from the senses and go into stillness and silence.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. Thank you so much, Tom. Appreciate you.
Lots of love.